Thanks for staying with us. As we are in hurricane season now, the city is doing a lot of work to help prepare for any possible storms and to be ready to recover after they have gone. And to talk to us about that today are two people from the police department who manage the police department's emergency management efforts. Sergeant John Holman and Officer Fred Knaggs. Thank you for joining us today, both of you.
Certainly.
Sergeant Holman, we'll start with you. You are both the emergency management coordinators for the police department, among other tasks that you do, but right now you do focus heavily on a lot relating to hurricanes.
We focus a lot with anything having to do with the hurricanes or emergency preparedness. That's one of our ancillary duties, would be doing that, but I'm on the road. My full-time job is being on the road in charge of officers during day shift.
Okay.
But again, we have to look at what's coming up this season.
Right, and Officer Knaggs, our viewers may know him. He's been on a number of times before talking about you're a parks officer. You patrol the city's parks heavily and work with those issues.
I'm in the parks unit with the district support division, and you know, along with the parks, I'm in quite a few ancillary duties, and one of them is assisting Sergeant Holman in the emergency management efforts with our city.
Okay, so I guess that means you spend time either training or preparing and planning how the police department will respond in a hurricane.
Correct.
What are the big issues of concern for the police department?
For the police department is the safety of the public. That's one of the biggest ones, having to do with water, power lines, any emergency situation that might come up due to any type of natural disaster.
Right, or any kind of disaster, not just hurricanes. You have to be prepared for that the whole time as well. As
we saw with the flooding just last year, we had that one storm come through and flood a very large portion of the city and wash out roadways and bridges.
That's right. We had major areas of the city that were impassable for at least a little while.
Just from a rainstorm.
Just from a rainstorm. Unexpected came in as an offshoot of a tropical storm.
Correct.
So, Sergeant Holman, describe to us the process. How does it work? You two would be assigned to the county's Emergency Operations Center, and talk to us about a little bit how it works.
Officer Knaggs and I would be representing the police department. We go to the Emergency Operations Center, which is our 911 center, along with members throughout the city of the utilities, public works, Red Cross, county agencies, state agencies, other law enforcement agencies, and it's a centralized contact point and coordination point for everybody up there.
And you are then in touch with these other organizations so that you can relay information back to us?
We're in touch with those organizations and the correct people to coordinate from. We're also in touch with the City Emergency Operations Center, and officers throughout the city for us will have our phone numbers up there to contact us in case something's needed, any questions are going on, or to advise us as to what's happening.
Okay, and let's say a storm is approaching, we got a hurricane on the way. The police officers are the last ones to leave the streets.
We'll probably be the last ones to get off the street, trying to get everybody out, directing evacuation routes if it came to that, or just trying to man the intersections with electrical problems, things like that.
Okay, and so Officer Knaggs, with two of you working up there, I guess that's an around-the-clock position until the emergency has passed. Are you prepared for that?
It's a 24-hour position, and the way we would work it, obviously, is we would work in shifts. But I think one of the biggest things to kind of touch on real quick is the evacuations. The officers would be out working intersections. More than likely, the lights would be out and not working. But if you're asked to evacuate, I would tell people to evacuate. Anytime emergency management up at the St. Lucie County Emergency Operations Center asks you to evacuate, please leave.
Don't take it lightly.
No, not at all.
And Sergeant Holman, if people don't evacuate, that makes your work more difficult. You
have to remember, we have families too, but they're jeopardizing our lives to try to save their lives when it didn't have to be that way. They were given the chance, they were given the advice and told, here is what you should do. And now our hand is being forced to watch out. But we will try to make sure we know where you are, and we will be out there the first thing to hopefully find everybody okay.
I know the officers race into dangerous situations every day to protect life and property.
Correct.
But you're right, in this situation, if people can avoid putting the officer in that situation by evacuating,
Absolutely.
Makes a lot of sense.
And that's us in fire rescue too, because we work hand in hand to help people out that way.
Okay. So after a storm passes, then what's the first thing the police department starts doing?
We're going to be working with the probably utilities, public works, as far as our city goes, to get the roads cleared. We can't check on anybody, check on businesses. We need to get this city up and running, and to get to people, find out if anybody is endangered or was hurt, like that. We have to be able to get to them. So we'll be trying to clear the roads and getting everything up and running.
Okay. On the city's, on the police department's website, which is cityofpsl.com/police, you've got an informative package posted up there to tell people, give them ideas on what they can do to stay safe.
Certainly. That is a PowerPoint presentation that Officer Knaggs has put together, done a great job of providing information from the beginning of an emergency to the end. And if he wants to,
Officer Knaggs, I guess you must have done a lot of research. It's quite an extensive package of information you've got there.
There is a lot of information, and it's not one of those things you just look at once. It's one of those informative packets that, if you need a question answered, hopefully you can go to that packet and you can get the information that you may be looking for. I work together with the city's emergency management coordinator,
Carmen Capizzuto, who we bring in here from time to time also.
That's correct. And he kind of reviewed it, and there were some things that needed to be tweaked and changed and updated. So I went in and made those changes, and I hope people find it to be very informative, because there's information in there from evacuation information to sterilizing water after a storm if need be, to taking care of your pets during a storm and after a storm.
It is full of information. It's 99 pages, and it's got everything. It's important that you're right about working with the city's emergency management coordinator so that your message is consistent. People may find some of the same information by going to the website of the city, or they're thinking, this is an emergency, I need to know what the police want to say about it. They go to the police website, they'll find that just as much there from the presentation you've put together. And a lot of times I think the police are the first ones that come to mind, police and firefighters, as you mentioned, during those times, because you are the emergency workers heading out there, and you do have the credibility, and people will much more likely follow what you request.
The credibility and the authority when it comes time for an emergency. Remember, this is an emergency, and we're going to be advising what is safe and what is not safe.
Exactly, and I think that would get the attention. When the police are saying so, this is serious. They should be listening to the other weather experts as well, but when it comes from the police department, it's...
And he made a big point. He mentioned the pets. That's a very big item during emergencies.
Sure.
And people coming back, either they left their pets, and there's nothing that's going to stop them from getting back to their pets. Pets you had to prepare for. If you own pets, that's a responsibility, and one that people need to be aware of and take care of prior to this happening.
And if they don't make arrangements, they end up maybe staying behind when they shouldn't, or going back in?
You're correct. Many people, pets are their children. They are their livelihood, and they will risk their lives to stay with their dog, their cat, whatever they have. And they have, and people have lost their lives because of that.
And the problem with that is that causes you to have to risk your life as well.
Correct.
So
that's correct.
We want to avoid that.
Many times there are calls after the winds have reached a certain speed, fire rescue is not allowed out, the ambulances cannot run in the winds, we can't go out in the storm. Now we get the calls for help saying, hey, now the water's coming and I can't get out, what do I do? We can't help you at that point. We will be there to get you, but
you can't get out there in that kind of storm.
There at that
point. We don't have that kind of machinery to get you there.
No.
So what are the other important things? What else would you like people to know about from the police department's end? What are some of the key important issues that people should be thinking about this time, right now, before we have a storm? Some of the things they can be doing.
Prepare, prepare, prepare. I mean, I think you can't say that enough. You hear it all the time on TV and the radio. Cut shrubbery away from your homes, and get a supply kit. Put stuff away, canned goods, non-perishable items. have that kit ready to go in case you do need it. And a lot of times shelters will tell you to bring these certain supplies. This way, if you have it prepared now, you're not rushing to the store later, right before a storm or something hits, trying to get that stuff. And a lot of times it's off the shelf.
Medicines. If you know we're hitting the hurricane season, most doctors will prescribe if there's hurricanes coming or we have something that's coming and you're going to go away, you're going out of town for a week, going out of town for a month, or you know you have to get out. Last minute is not the time to try to get a prescription filled, because everybody will be trying to do that.
Great point.
You need your prescriptions. Make sure you make plans with your doctor to say, if something happens, can I get that taken care of prior to this, or can I have a backup for that?
And don't forget cash. That's a big one. Everybody forgets. A lot of people rely on credit cards and debit cards today. Make sure you get some cash and put it in your supply kit if you need to.
And that's because when there's electrical failure, the
ATM and credit card machines are down a lot of times, yes.
Correct.
In the hurricanes of 2004, 2005, we learned a lot of lessons.
A lot of lessons.
But it's been a while. And we've had the tropical storms and the floods that you mentioned along the way, but still the heavy winds and the trouble and disruptions that causes. I guess it's important for you to stay up on it and to let people know, not to get complacent.
And you just mentioned several different items. Winds, there's a big problem. That can cause a lot of damage. Water, flooding can cause damage. Electrical lines going down. Many different types of damage. Doesn't matter what type of storm it is. If it's a tornado, as we've seen the tragedies out west, that's just wind. But what the devastation it can cause. It doesn't have to be a hurricane. It can be a mixture of many other types of emergencies alone.
Right. Well, gentlemen, we're about out of time here, but we appreciate you taking some time to spend with us today to talk about some of these issues, especially as they're important to the police department. Appreciate the effort. Officer Knaggs, an excellent package full of detailed information on preparing for and recovering from storms and disasters up on the city's police webpage. I hope it'll be helpful to people looking for information.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Sergeant John Holman and Fred Knaggs, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back after this quick message.